So as we all sit, waiting, what's going to happen in Iran? Is there going to be an attack? And I've been covering that in a lot of my Iran updates. I thought it would be a good idea to check in on Iran's proxy network. Let's review. Before October 7th, and still today to some extent, Iran has proxy militias, proxy armies all over the Middle East. And they don't all have the same relationship to the regime, by the way. You have Hezbollah in Lebanon and in Iraq. There's a difference between them. Hezbollah in Lebanon is literally an arm of the Iranian government. It's more than being a proxy. You might remember the beeper attack. Well, in the beeper attack that blew up various body parts of so many Hezbollah guys in Lebanon, one of the beepers that blew up was the beeper of the Iranian ambassador in Lebanon. Or to put it another way, who chooses the next leader of Hezbollah if the leader of Hezbollah gets killed? Who is the Iranian government? It's actually an arm of the Iranian government, but let's call it a proxy. So you have this army in Lebanon, Hezbollah, which of course got devastated by the Israelis over the last few years, but still has a lot of missiles and has capabilities. You have Hezbollah Iraq or Kataib Hezbollah, which is a little bit more independent, but they're also a proxy of Iran, funded and armed by the Iranians, Shiite militia in Iraq. And then, of course, you have the Houthis in Yemen. We've heard a lot about them over the last few years, and they're firing ballistic missiles at Israel and their disruptions of global shipping. They've made it quite a name for themselves. So let's check in on what they have been saying in anticipation of a U.S. attack on the Iranian regime. So let's go around the horn here. Let's start with Hezbollah in Lebanon. Okay, so Hezbollah's leader warns terror group won't stand idly by in the face of an attack on Iran. Hezbollah leader Naim Qassem warned that the group would respond to any attack on Iran as the IDF confirmed strikes on Hezbollah infrastructure and senior operatives in southern Lebanon. We'll get to that, more on that in a minute. Let's take a look at what's in this piece. So Hezbollah Secretary General Naim Qassem warned that they will not stand idly by, and if any attack on Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei will blow up the region. Okay. And then he goes on to say, hey, look at this. Qassem's comments come after the head of the Lebanese delegation to the Ceasefire and Disarmament Committee, Simon Karam, stated earlier on Monday that Hezbollah has not given any information about its weapons and facilities to the Lebanese armed forces. That was cited in Al Arabiya. And meanwhile, and that's why the IDF continues to carry out strikes. So even though there's officially a ceasefire in Lebanon, Israel continues to enforce the ceasefire at the terms of it, which means that they continue to carry out strikes against Hezbollah operatives. They killed a Hezbollah terrorist on Monday, just a couple days ago. This followed an earlier strike on another terrorist that was Monday afternoon, meaning multiple times a day. You don't see it in the news much, but Israel continues to carry out strikes on Hezbollah every day. And I'm bringing this up in this context because when Hezbollah threatens that they will not stand idly by in the face of an attack on Iran, understand that they are pretty weak. They're not retaliating at all to Israel killing its operatives and taking out its infrastructure and weapons on a daily basis, even though we officially have a ceasefire, because Israel is enforcing it. So when they say that they're not going to sit idly by and they're going to jump in and they're going to attack American assets or they're going to attack Israel if Iran gets attacked by the United States, let's take that with a grain of salt, because what exactly are their capabilities? Well, and I'll say more on that in a moment, but let's take a look at what Hezbollah Iraq is doing. Kataib Hezbollah calls on supporters to prepare for conflict with Israel. So let's take a look here. Kataib Hezbollah, a pro-Iranian militia based in Iraq, put out a statement on Sunday, earlier this week. The Secretary General of Kataib Hezbollah addresses the Zionists. The war on the Islamic Republic will leave nothing of you in our region. Now, I think, should Israelis be afraid of that? Let's understand who these guys are. This is Hezbollah in Iraq. During the 12-day war with Iran, the Israelis flew their planes. The route that all the Israeli fighter jets took from Israel to Iran all day long during that 12-day war, all these bombing missions, the route that they took was they flew from Israel up through Syria, through southeastern Syria, up into Iraq, into Iraqi airspace, across Iraq, and into Iran, where they then carried out their missions. The Iraqi militias did nothing. They have no real capabilities. They have drones and they have a few missiles. They have a few guys there. And so we should not take this threat all too seriously. Now, these guys hate the Americans and they are direct enemies of the Americans. You might recall that earlier on in this war, in 2024, there were 3 American service people who were killed by a drone attack in Jordan. That was carried out by these guys, by Kataib Hezbollah in Iraq. I should also mention that the U.S. killed the leader of Kataib Hezbollah, Abu Mahdi al-Muhandis, in 2020. Why did they kill him? Well, because they were killing Qasem Soleimani. Remember that guy, the head of the IRGC? When they killed Qasem Soleimani, this guy, Abu Mahdi al-Muhandis, the head of the Iraqi Hezbollah, was in the car with him. So the drone strike that killed Soleimani killed their guy, so they hate the Americans too. That's not why they hate the Americans, but I'm just pointing out that they are a direct enemy of the Americans, and they have killed American servicemen recently. And so they're also threatening that, look what they say here. The militia said that a conflict will lead to terrible death and nothing will remain of you, of Israel, in our region. Nothing will remain of Israel if the United States attacks, because the Hezbollah Iraqi faction is going to do something about it. Okay, so that's them. Now let's check in on the last of the proxies I mentioned, the Houthis. Yemen's Houthi rebels threaten new Red Sea attack as U.S. aircraft carrier heads towards Iran. This is also from earlier in the week. So they've threatened to start attacking ships traveling through the Red Sea corridor and disrupting global shipping. And they also the Houthis released a short video the other day, which showed images that were hard to see of a ship that was on fire. And it was actually I believe it was a British shipping vessel that they had attacked during this war. And they put the word soon on it as some kind of threat that they're going to start attacking global shipping again. Now, let's assess this threat now. Now that we've gone around the horn and talked about it, what does this really mean? So, like, how seriously should we take it? Because again, Hezbollah has missiles. The Iraqis have drones. They have capabilities. There are American servicemen and assets in the area. The Houthis have what they have. So let's look back at how all of these proxies behaved during the 12-day war. One of the most important events of the 12-day war, and I say events kind of in quotes, events, is that something that did not happen. Non-events are often as important as events in the news. And this is something that a lot of people don't realize. The problem with non-events that are very important is that they're non-events. And because they're non-events, they don't make headlines. There's no headlines that say what didn't happen. Okay? But what didn't happen can be as strategically significant as what happened. And in the 12-day war, one of the most significant events of that war was the fact that Iraqi Hezbollah and Lebanese Hezbollah did nothing. Nothing. They didn't fire. Hezbollah in Lebanon did not fire a single missile at Israel in retaliation for the 12-day war on Iran. And the entire reason that Hezbollah was created by the Iranians back in the early 80s and stuck in Lebanon on Israel's border, and that they occupied South Lebanon and it basically became the string pullers, like, managing the Lebanese government like a puppeteer all these decades, is in order to attack Israel and give them cover for the Iranian regime, that if the Iranian regime was ever attacked by Israel, they would come to their aid. And they did nothing. The Hezbollah in Lebanon did nothing during the 12-day war, and that was a major event because it exposed how weak and impotent they are. Okay? So it's hard to see them attacking Israel or attacking American assets if America attacks the regime in Tehran, because that would just invite hellfire on them. It would invite complete destruction on them, even worse than they're getting now. And as I pointed out, Israel's already carrying out strikes against them, knocking out their infrastructure and their weapons on a daily basis. Israel knows where every Hezbollah guy is. So we have to take those threats with a grain of salt. And as I pointed out, in Iraq, Israel was flying air missions across Iraq day and night throughout the 12-day war. The Iraqi Hezbollah did nothing. The Houthis are the only ones who took action. They actually did step up during the 12-day war, sort of. They fired, I think, 2 ballistic missiles at Israel during that time. caused a few minor injuries, not a whole lot happening there. But the Houthis are threatening, and they did disrupt global shipping, and they could still do that. But if part of what you're thinking about as we look forward or speculate what's going to happen when the United States attacks Iran with all these military assets and all the buildup that we've all been talking about now for weeks, if part of your thinking is, oh my gosh, there's going to be this escalation by the Iranian proxies, I'm skeptical. Not so fast. I'm not so sure that this proxy network is going to rise up in defense of the regime. Look, they might get an order to do so, but I can't believe that order wouldn't have been given during the 12-day war too. So that's my thought on the Iranian proxies. Please, leave a comment if you have something to say, and please check out the Israel 365 YouTube channel. Take a look, especially in the playlists, at the Superpower playlist. It's a 6-part series on Israel's rise to regional superpower status that has happened under our noses. I think you'll enjoy that video series. And and please let me know what you think of these videos and what you think of the channel and what direction you think I should go. I'm always reading the comments. I'm always happy to hear some suggestions. And God bless.